the headline. I never got to work in the studio with Michael.
Okay.
The song happened over the course of 4 years.
Oh, okay.
I had a track that I gave to a producer, who gave to another producer, who gave to another producer, who gave to Teddy Riley, the legendary Teddy Riley.
Okay.
And Teddy Riley was pitching songs to Michael Jackson for the Invincible album.
Oh, wow.
And Michael heard Heaven Can Wait. By that time, some writers had added lyrics to the track.
Mm-hmm.
So when I gave it to the first producer, it was an instrumental. And
Mm-hmm.
then when over the course of this time, vocals were added to it, lyrics were added to it, so it became Heaven Can Wait. And so by the time that got to Michael in the spring of 2001,
Mm-hmm.
this full song was there, and Michael loved it, and he wanted to record it. And I had no idea until Memorial Day weekend of 2001. My phone starts to ring off the hook with all these people asking me about this song. It was crazy. And I didn't believe it. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank. I was like, there's no way. But it got very real.
Mhm.
Back then we didn't really have much email. So we were doing stuff via fax. People they were
Yeah.
faxing me, recording deals and songwriters, split letters and all that. And it became very real. So about 6 months later, about 6 months later, in
Mhm.
October of 2001, the record came out, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and I saw my name in the credits, and I couldn't even believe it. I still can't believe that it actually happened.
That must have been a so real moment.
It's
Like,
super surreal, super, and it's also a great song. It's one of the, I think, one of the fan favorites from that album.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
for
So,
sure.
could you also speak about your time at? 'Cause I saw you went to JMU.
Yes.
So, could you speak about going to JMU and why you didn't go to like a school like Norfolk State, maybe?
So I was getting a lot of, as a young high school student, I was playing in the marching band. I was playing in this kind of core style band, and JMU actually offered me a percussion performance scholarship to
Oh,
go to JMU. So that was what really tipped it over the edge, for me. And I also wanted to get a little further away from home.
okay.
Norfolk State is about 10 minutes from my parents' house. And I wanted to, like, live a little bit on my own and go
Okay.
away. So, and JMU just seemed like the perfect fit.
Mhm.
And it ended up being I had a wonderful time while I was there.
Did you have any mentors, or you said you're part of the marching band?
Yeah, I was a part of the marching band in high school at Indian River High School
Indian
and
River.
James Madison University. For
Mhm.
my first year there, I was a part of the marching band. But most of my mentorships came, you know, obviously band directors were looking out for me and trying and helping me learn more, and drum instructors were helping me learn more. But for my mentorship in terms of jazz and playing jazz drum set, that
Mhm.
happened a little bit later for me. It kind of happened, around like 1995, 96.
Okay.
Um, and when I met the great Betty Carter, she introduced me to Jazz Ahead. And that was the first time I really saw musicians who were my age at the time playing at a super high level. It was very inspiring for me. That's kind of what I think was sort of my on ramp to playing jazz at a really high level.
So, with that being said, could you talk about some inspiring artists that inspired you to become a jazz artist?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So when I was growing up, my father had a pretty big vinyl collection,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and he used to listen to instrumental R&B from the late. I was born in 1974, so early late 70s, early 80s. That was
Mhm.
the era. And so the music of the time was, in that world, was Quincy Jones, Grover Washington Jr., David Sanborn, the Jazz Crusaders. That was the music I was listening to in the house.
Mhm.
And, that was the stuff that influenced me first. But as I got deeper and deeper into jazz, I started to realize there was a whole other school of jazz, or several schools of jazz, that came before that. So I
Mhm.
dug a little deeper, and I discovered Art Blakey, and I discovered Miles Davis, and I discovered, John Coltrane. I discovered that music a little bit later, like closer to college, high school and college.
Mhm.
So those, I think, were the first, you know, influences,
Mhm.
that really, made me want to play this music. That really made me want to explore finding my voice in this music.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, as you went to a university, could you
Mhm.
maybe give some tips for young people wanting to pursue in the music profession?
Yeah, I think number one, I think the number one tip I would say is always have fun.
Always have fun.
It has to be fun. That is the thing that's going to keep you going when times get a little tough, things get challenging. When you get frustrated, you have to really remember that you love to play. You have to remember why you're doing it. That's important. The other thing is always be a student of the music. Like
Okay.
learn something about it, or let your friends introduce you to new music, or listen to someone you've never checked out before. Sometimes it's easy to get stuck inside the stuff you like,
Hmm.
but if you can venture out of it and listen to something different, even if you don't understand it or don't like it right away, there still could be some value in it for you. You know what I mean? There's still
Yeah.
something you can learn from it. Um, and yeah, I also say, right now, especially in our day and age with, the way that people can communicate directly with their fans and supporters, I say use all the tools you have at your disposal. Use your socials, use the internet, use everything you can to really reach as wide a net of people as possible,
Hmm.
and play your music in front of people. That's another thing.
Okay.
Play music in front of people. That's really important. I was all through my time at JMU, I was always playing gigs,
Playing it.
like
Okay.
I was always gigging on the weekends, during sometimes, during the week I was playing. So it's really good practice for when you get out into the world and start playing for a living. It's really good practice to just play in front of live audiences as much as you can.
So, with that being said, you talk about you playing gigs while attending university. How did you
Mhm.
find that balance of work, school, and
Yeah.
wanting to pursue your career?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think one of the things that helped me was, you know, I always wanted to learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, and do the things that I needed to do to fulfill the requirements for my class. But
Hmm.
I always understood that the stuff you learn in the room, the stuff you learn in the practice room, the stuff you learn in the classroom is only about half of it.
Okay.
The rest of it is the real world experience.
Hmm.
Um, and I always had summer jobs where I was playing. So my
Okay.
freshman year, between my freshman and sophomore year, I worked at King's Dominion. I played in the band there.
Hmm.
Between my junior and senior year, I worked at Walt Disney World. I was playing. So yeah, so I always had a job.
Hmm.
I always thought of music as, yes, this is this craft I need to learn about, but I also need to put that practice into work, into
Yeah.
motion. Yeah. Yeah, so that was my thing. I always was thinking about it and this sort of duality, like, okay, yes, I am a student, but I'm also a young musician who aspires to be a professional musician.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just putting that work, what you're using in school and work to mold it together, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. You use what you learn in school to the degree that you can apply it to the real world. But then there's some stuff that you can only learn in the real world. There's some stuff you can only learn by playing shows in front of people and trying material, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. There's a lot that you can only learn by doing.
So, right after college, did you have the privilege of having a job right after, or did you struggle to find a job right after college?
Oh, I struggled for a long time. I was determined to be a full-time musician, you
Okay.
know, and
Hmm.
that's very hard to do. For me at the time, it was very hard because, um, I was kind of starting from scratch. After school, after I left JMU, I attended VCU for a year, and I did a graduate program there. And while I was there, I met some great artists who came to visit. Artists in residence came to visit. The great Dave Holland came to visit. And I began a relationship that continued later on. But during that time while I was in Richmond, it was very hard because I was playing local gigs, trying to stitch together enough money to pay my bills. And it's a challenge. It really is a challenge. But the thing that I got lucky because I was surrounded by musicians who are a little bit older than me in Richmond who had been professional musicians for a long time. So kind of schooled me on, like, how often I would need to play, what these local gigs looked like, how much I'd have to work to sort of get to be able to pay my bills,
Hmm.
But after a while, I decided, it was time for me to take the leap and continue the relationships I started in New York. So for
Right.
4 years, I lived in Richmond and worked. And then in 2001, I moved to New York City and started my career there.